The summer heat in the suburbs was thick enough to swim in. It was late afternoon, the time of day when the sun dips low and turns everything a hazy golden syrup color. For Harper, this was the most dangerous time of day. Harper stood in her kitchen, gripping a glass of iced tea that was sweating almost as much as she was. She wasn't drinking it. She was staring out the window, past her own manicured lawn, toward the tall wooden fence that separated her property from the house next door. The house belonged to Julianne. Julianne had moved in 6 months ago. She was an artist who worked with clay and paint, and she often spent her evenings in the backyard wearing oversized linen shirts and shorts that showed off legs Harper tried very hard not to think about. Harper, a graphic designer who spent too much time in her own head, had developed a crush so severe it felt like a teenage affliction. Through the slats of the wooden fence, specifically where the ivy had thinned out near the old oak tree, there was a gap. It wasn't a large gap, just enough to see flashes of movement in the neighbor's yard. Harper knew she shouldn't look. She told herself she was just checking on her tomato plants near the property line. But as she stepped out the back door, the sound of soft humming drifted over the wood. Julianne was out there. Harper moved silently across the grass, her heart doing a traitorous double-time rhythm in her chest. She crouched down by her tomato vines, pretending to inspect a leaf for leafids. She held her breath and leaned forward, just an inch, peering through the gap in the ivy. The view was devastating. Julianne was painting a large canvas propped against her shed. She was covered in specks of blue and green acrylic. She had music playing softly from a portable speaker, something slow and jazzy. She swayed her hips as she painted, her focus intense, her dark hair pulled up in a messy bun that was slowly unraveling. Harper watched, mesmerized. There was something so raw and beautiful about Julianne and her element. Harper watched the way Julianne bit her lip when she concentrated, the way her shoulder muscles flexed as she made a broad stroke across the canvas. It was voyeuristic, Harper knew, but she couldn't tear her eyes away. She felt a magnetic pull, a desperate wish to be on the other side of that fence, to be the subject of that focus. Suddenly, the music stopped. The silence was loud. Harper froze. Through the gap, she saw Julianne pause, her brush hovering in midair. Slowly, deliberately, Julianne turned her head. She looked straight at the fence, straight at the gap in the ivy, straight into Harper's eyes. Harper's breath hitched. She should have ducked. She should have pretended to be weeding, but she was paralyzed by the sudden, piercing contact of Julianne's gaze. Julianne didn't look angry. She didn't look scared. A slow, knowing smirk curled the corner of her mouth. She set her paintbrush down on the table. "The view is better from over here, you know," Julianne called out. Her voice was low, amused, and carried effortlessly over the barrier. Harper wanted the ground to open up and swallow her whole. Her face burned so hot she felt dizzy. She stood up slowly, brushing dirt off her knees, her cover completely blown. I was just checking my tomatoes," Harper stammered, her voice cracking. "I'm sure the tomatoes are fascinating," Julianne said, walking toward the fence. She stopped right on the other side. Harper could smell her scent now, turpentine, vanilla, and fresh summer sweat. "But you've been checking your tomatoes every evening at 5 o'clock for 3 weeks, Harper." Harper gripped the top of the fence, her knuckles white. "I didn't think you saw me." "I see everything," Julianne murmured. She reached up, her fingers brushing against Harper's hand resting on the wood. The touch sent a jolt of electricity straight down Harper's spine. "Why don't you stop hiding and come over?" It wasn't a question. It was a challenge. Harper walked to the gate connecting their yards, her legs feeling like jelly. She unlatched it and stepped into Julianne's sanctuary. Being on this side felt surreal. The color seemed brighter, the air heavier with tension. Julianne was standing there, wiping her paint-stained hands on a rag. Up close, her eyes were a piercing amber. She dropped the rag and took a step closer to Harper, invading her personal space in the best way possible. "So," Julianne said softly, tilting her head, "you like to watch?" Harper struggled for words. "You're beautiful. It's hard not to look." The honesty seemed to surprise Julianne. Her smirk softened into something more genuine, more heated. "I've been waiting for you to make a move, Harper. I thought I was going to have to throw a ball over the fence just to get you to talk to me." "You knew?" "I was hoping." Julianne reached out, her hand cupping Harper's jaw. Her thumb traced Harper's lower lip, sending shivers cascading through her body. "You have no idea how distracting it is," whispered Julianne, "knowing you're just on the other side of that wood, wanting me." "I do want you," Harper admitted, the confession tumbling out. "I really do." "Good." Julianne closed the distance. She kissed Harper, and it was nothing like the tentative, shy daydream Harper had played out in her head. It was hungry and demanding. Julianne tasted of peppermint tea and desire. Her hands tangled in Harper's hair, pulling her closer, pressing their bodies together until there was no air left between them. Harper groaned into the kiss, her hands finding Julianne's waist, gripping the fabric of her linen shirt. The months of pent-up longing, of stolen glances and silent pining exploded all at once. "Inside," Julianne breathed against Harper's lips. "Now." She took Harper's hand and led her toward the back door of the house. They stumbled through the kitchen, barely registering the surroundings. The house was cool and dark compared to the bright garden, a welcome relief. They didn't make it to the bedroom. In the living room, Julianne pushed Harper back against the wall, her eyes dark with intent. "I want to see you," Julianne murmured, her voice a low growl. "No fences, no barriers." She pulled Harper's shirt over her head, tossing it carelessly onto the floor. Harper's hands were shaking as she reached for the buttons of Julianne's shirt, fumbling in her haste. Julianne laughed, a low, throaty sound, and helped her, shrugging the garment off to reveal smooth olive skin. When skin finally met skin, it was electric. The friction, the heat, the overwhelming sense of finally. They moved to the plush rug in the center of the room, limbs tangling together. The world outside ceased to exist. There were no neighbors, no tomatoes, no fences. Just the two of them, drowning in the sensation of each other. Julianne hovered over Harper, her hair falling like a curtain around them, creating a private world. She traced the line of Harper's collarbone with her lips, making Harper arch her back with a sharp intake of breath. "Tell me you're mine," Julianne whispered against her skin, her hands exploring, mapping every curve Harper had hidden away. "I'm yours," Harper gasped, her fingers digging into Julianne's shoulders. "I've been yours since you moved in." The playfulness was gone now, replaced with a fierce, driving need. The evening light filtered through the blinds, casting stripes of shadow and gold across their bodies as they moved together. It was a rhythmic, desperate dance of touch and taste. Every kiss was a promise kept. Every touch was a question answered. The months of separation melted away as they learned the language of each other's bodies. The soft sighs, the sharp gasps, the way Julianne's name sounded like a prayer on Harper's lips. As the sun finally set, casting the room into twilight, the only sounds were their ragged breathing and the soft rustle of the sheets they had pulled down from the sofa. Harper lay back, looking up at Julianne, who looked like a goddess in the dim light, disheveled, breathless, and utterly radiant. The fence was still there outside, standing tall and rigid, but the barrier between them was gone, shattered completely, never to be rebuilt again.